Look, if you want to quit any addiction, here are the four things that you need to focus on. And those four things are the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. And although I'm going to show you these 4 points, I'm also going to tell you why it goes deeper than simply habit formation. Stay tuned till the end. The cue triggers the brain to say that there is a reward. So this is like when you walk by a nice donut shop and fresh donuts are just made, you smell it. That's the cue. It could also be that you are stressed out and you are wanting to look at something that is lustful. There could be many cues that we experience in our life, and those cues then come to a craving. The craving really is the desire to achieve that thing. So let's go back with the donut example. You want the donut, you smell it, it's the cue. The craving is the desire. Really, I want that donut. It leads you to have a response. If the response is easy to do, you are going to do it. If it's hard to do, you are not going to do it. And lastly comes the reward. Really, this is the satisfaction from acting upon the original cue that we have experienced up here. Once you act upon it, you experience a reward. So now that donut is tasting so yummy, it tastes so delicious. So the question becomes, what if you have a bad habit? What if you want to break, let's say, pornography addiction, or break the habit of becoming angry at your kids, or break the bad habit of distancing yourselves from your spouse when you get into an argument? The way that you're going to do that is fairly straightforward. So the first thing you want to do is make the cue invisible. So don't walk past the donut shop. Don't go by the office of that woman that you know could be attractive. You want to make that cue invisible. Don't put yourself in a situation where you could get upset at your kids. Now, this is much easier said than done, but this is where the beginning of it lies. That will then lead you to work on the craving. What you want to do is you want to make the craving unattractive. And so how can you make lust unattractive? Multiple ways, but I'm going to show you a simple solution. The way that you make lust unattractive is you sit down and you write down the benefits and then the consequences of the action that you are going to take. So this could be lust, this could be anger, but think about the benefits of not lusting. Increased relationship with your wife, greater clarity in life, better relationship with God, clearer focus in your life, better relationships with people in general, no guilt and no shame. These are all the benefits of not following through with lust or consuming pornography. The consequences of all of these are actually the opposite. That worse relationship with your spouse, not having clarity, having that mental fog, feeling continual guilt and shame for how you are living, decreased relationships with people where you feel isolated and not confident as you are talking to people, then decreased relationship with God, and also, like we already said, a lack of focus. If you look at all of these and you look on this side, when we're talking about making the craving unattractive, we could say, you know what? The consequences are so bad that I don't want to move forward into the next step because I know what is going to happen. The Bible already teaches us about the deceitfulness of sin. Sin presents itself as so rewarding. It's going to be so amazing if you just give in and you do that thing. But we know at the end, like Proverbs 5 says, the adulteress is like bitter as wormwood, that sin leads to death, that it is like the apple that looks so beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, it is completely rotten. So we want to make the craving unattractive. And the way we're going to do it is write down a list of benefits versus consequences of consuming and following through on this bad habit. And this is really where we begin to work on our mind. And I'll share a little bit more about that later. The next thing is make the response difficult. So instead of making it easy, the question is, how can you make the response difficult? Well, you can have filters, accountability. You could put your phone far away or locked up for the evening, whatever it might be. Or this is the negative way of how you can make things difficult, but there's also a positive way that you make the response difficult is you can build an amazing relationship with your wife and have that emotional connection. You can find a hobby that you enjoy. And so therefore, you're going to be finding natural dopamine in relationships with people and the hobby that you have and all these other things. So that's how you make the response difficult. You think about, how great is my life? Why would I even need to go back to lust and pornography? Or why would I need to go back to anger when I have amazing kids that God has gifted me? We already talked about making the cue invisible, make the craving unattractive, make the response difficult. Lastly, what we are going to do is we're going to make the reward unsatisfying. So the reality is that the reward of sin, which is, right, lust and anger, the reward of it is already unsatisfying. If I lash out in anger at my kids, that is unsatisfied. That's how we are inherently created by God. This is a natural consequence of not having self-control. If I follow through on my lust and watch pornography, it already is unsatisfying because of the consequences of that. But see, the thing is that in the moment, it seems extremely satisfying. And the main reason why it seems extremely satisfying is because of your mind. Your mind has been warped to view the things that are bad as good and to view the things that are good as just simply okay. Meaning, you don't find joy in the good things. They're just simply okay. But the things that are bad, you're finding enjoyment in them because you have a problem here inside of your mind. And so your mind needs to change. Your mind needs to transform. This is what the Bible teaches when we get to Romans chapter 12, that we are transformed by the what? Renewing of our mind. And so we need to renew the mind. You can work extremely hard on the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward, but if you are not going to renew your mind, all of that is in vain because you are functioning in the wrong level. And let me explain what I mean by this. What is happening is that there are three things. On the bottom level, we have identity. On the second level, we have integrity. And on the last level, we have impact. Or another way to say this is be, do, have. When we simply work only on this level right here, which is the habits, the do. We work only in the area of the habits, but we don't work on the mindset. Then what ends up happening is that this integrity, the do part, starts to become very hard to do. Why? Because it is clashing with your mind. It is clashing at your identity level. You still believe that you are enslaved to sin. You still believe that God is holding something back from you and that this sin is going to be so great. You have not fixed your identity, and therefore, for you to live out a life of integrity is much harder. And so this bottom level is where true change happens. True change needs to happen on the identity level of who you are in Christ. So you have to remind yourself that you are dead to sin, alive to God in Christ. You're a new creation. After helping over 100 men, it is this level right here that has caused them to have lasting change in their life. Even though I showed you how you're able to change habits in your life, if you do not change at the level of the mind, this will all be short term. But as you are renewing your mind and you are functioning in the second level of the habits of the integrity and you're having trouble, then start working on this. Making the cue invisible, making the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying. And if you naturally do this and you start working on these, what we call 1% changes in your life, make the cue invisible, that's a 1% change. The craving unattractive, a 1% change. The response difficult, a 1% change. The reward unsatisfying, a 1% change. Guess what? If you add all these up, that's 4% better already. And oftentimes we are waiting for some major thing to happen in our life when all we need to do is start taking action on the small things are helping us to grow and to move forward. What ends up happening, the small work compounds, and over time, we experience this hockey stick curve that we all want for lasting change. When we are right here, we typically quit. Right here, right here, right here, we quit. We quit at the little 1% changes. But brothers, do not lose hope. There is great change coming in your life, and keep focused on that. So if this was encouraging to you, send this to a brother who might need to hear this and start implementing this in your life. If you're looking for more content like this in an awesome community, in the link below, you can join Integrity Kings Community. It is a community of men who are living out their identity as kings, seeking to make an impact in this world. If you haven't yet, subscribe, and more content like this to follow. I'm unpacking and revealing everything that I have learned in the last 10 years regarding building habits, having an amazing life with your wife, with your kids, and building a business of your dreams, and having that time freedom, and ultimately really having that freedom from sin and lethargy and living a life of impact.